7 o'clock. I guess we could get started if we could all rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Fryrick?
Here.
Mr. Posnell?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
Mr. Sanders?
Here.
Mr. Scalette?
Here.
Mrs. Schrader?
Here.
Mr. Sears?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
Mr. Tillman?
Here.
9 members present.
Thank you, everybody. Please mute yourself unless you're called on. And this is our first opportunity for public comment. Do we have any comments to see?
We have 4 comments. Listen.
Okay, so everybody had time to read?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have the minutes from October 5th, the Planning Committee meeting. Are there any changes or corrections? Otherwise, I guess they can be approved as submitted. Thank you. Mr. Sears, Treasurer's Report.
Thank you, John. Estimated interest is up this month as we would expect, $23,475. For the remainder is a consent agenda. Would any board member like any of the items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of the below mentioned items.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Ellen.
Questions or comments? This can be a unanimous roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you. And in my report, the only thing I would request is that we're coming up on that time of year for reorganization. So if the Personnel Committee could schedule a public meeting sometime in mid-November to consider request for president and vice president, so we can decide about reorg in December. And I guess that's all I have. Dr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Posno. Beginning of the school year, fiscal year, we typically have a group come and present to us for their athletics or booster club organization or whatever it might be. And tonight we have the district all sports affiliated booster group with the president, Kristen Hinder, with us tonight. I believe she's here. I think I saw her. Yeah, there she is. Yes. Kristen, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, hi. Thank you all for having me tonight. This has been a challenging start, to say the least, with changing our entire board. I am the current president. Our vice president is Lissa Scott. Our secretary is Shelly Dreyhus. Our treasurer is Gina Kuma. And Kathy Butler, who is the president, or I'm sorry, the treasurer last year, has agreed to stay on with just some transitioning things. She helped, and Josh also helped the outgoing president with getting things switched over. So I think we're pretty good there. Still getting our feet wet, but I think for the most part, so far so good. I know last year we had increased the scholarships. So we normally give 8 $500 scholarships. And then at the end of last year, we decided we were going to do 8 $1,000 scholarships, which we were able to award. And we have also decided for the 2020-2021 school year, we are going to do 8 $1,000 scholarships again. We really didn't want to have to change that after the first year, even though the pandemic hit and we really don't know financially how we will be. With Matt Marshall's help, he suggested that with the money that we had in our funds, that we would be okay to at least do that for another year. We might have to get a little creative on how we can raise money, because we would really like to see those scholarships stay at $1,000, because it's, you know, it's definitely much needed. And I did receive a couple thank you letters from the recipients, which was extremely nice, just saying that the start to their school year has been nothing normal, but they really appreciate that and are using it for exactly what we intended it to be used for. So that's been great. As far as the biggest, I would say our fundraiser is our concessions, which we do not have right now with fall sports. We consider ourselves lucky enough that we are able to have our fall sports, and that everyone has done everything in their power to do the social distancing and with the kids wearing the masks on the sidelines and doing the 250 spectators, which we, again, appreciate at least that. But it didn't justify having the concession stands open, which we were hoping that it would, if it would have changed maybe halfway through the season. We had discussed it, and maybe not doing hot food, but at least doing the, you know, prepackaged and the candy and the sodas and things like that, at least for the athletes. But again, it didn't pan out like we had hoped. So again, we're keeping our fingers crossed that maybe in the, with the winter and the spring sports, that we can open the concessions and start getting some monetary, you know, in back into our account. We just don't know at this point. So we're fingers crossed. I know we did our first golf outing last year. We were unable to do that this year. Obviously, there was just nothing we could do about it. That's normally, it was held in June. We couldn't hold it this year. Our hopes are to hold it in 2021. We just have to kind of see how things go. We're on the same as everyone else. We do meet with the music boosters, trying to figure out, you know, with them how, trying to get creative. We meet with them, and again, we're just going to keep trying to get money back into this club some way, somehow. We are almost done our 501c3. So I think hopefully by the end of next month, we should be able to apply for that, which is great. They've been working on that for a long time. It's my understanding. Kathy's worked really hard on that. So I know I gave Wendy an update that we were hoping it would be done the end of this month. And I think our hope is, again, everything getting pushed back, that we should be finished with that by the end of next month. And that's really it. We don't have a whole lot to report because there really isn't a whole lot going on. We're, you know, our memberships are down. Obviously, we have, without spectators, they're not paying that ticket price either. So with the memberships getting free tickets, we're trying to figure out an incentive for teams to get 75%, 100% of membership, that if each sport would do that the Booster Club was looking into something creative to give them as an incentive. We hadn't come up with anything, but we're still trying to have people realize, we're hoping that people will realize, and it's up to the reps to push how important it is, how important membership is. And without them, we won't have anything. So again, it's too early to tell. And we lost all of spring, so we didn't get any of those memberships. You know, fall season's difficult. So we're doing the best we can and trying to hang in there and hope that things go back to normal, but that's all that we really can do right now. So I don't know if anybody has any questions for me, but that's really all I had.
Quiet group, no questions.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and tonight's superintendent's report. As we're moving, the end of October marks the end of the first marking period, and we asked families if they wanted to stay with their current learning mode or switch to the other one. Prior to the start of the school year, we asked them to stay with the learning mode for the marking period 1. And now that we're into heading toward marking period 2, families had an opportunity to change which mode of learning that their children are in. By and large, most people stayed with the mode they were in, but we had some movement from top to hybrid and some from hybrid to top. Most of the movement was from top to hybrid. In general, though, we have about 20% of our student body in top. So we have, in marking period 1, we had 679 students in top, and for marking period 2, we're going to have 621 students in top. So that's the story for this coming marking period. For future changes to the learning mode, we're looking at using the same timeline we released last month as far as when we're going to give families an opportunity to change their learning mode. And for marking period 3, that decision point is December 21st board meeting. And for marking period 4, it's the February 22nd marking period tentatively. So if you think in terms of holidays, it's right before the Christmas holiday for the marking period 3, and right around the President's holiday for marking period 4. Those are the decision points for those marking periods. Also along the COVID lines, we have an updated COVID-19 dashboard on our website that provides current data for the day that you're viewing the data. There's also historical data there as well. But I'll have a link into the posted superintendent's report for that. But it's also, you can also go there by going to our COVID-19 page and see those numbers. So that's the COVID related news. In other news, our flexible instructional day application has been approved by the Pennsylvania Department of Education so that we can use FIDS when we get back to normal kinds of schooling. And FIDS can be used for inclement weather days, or when a building has to be shut down for some kind of maintenance issue or some kind of pipe break or something like that. We can use a FID day in place of that to count for a day of instruction. And we got that approval based on our experience with online and hybrid learning right now. The approval is good for this current school year, which I don't anticipate we'll be using any of those FID days for this current school year, but it's also for school year 2021-22 and 2022-23 school year. So it's good for 3 years, including the year that we're in. As far as enrollment in York Tech provided enrollment information recently. The school has a standard full-time program where attending students take their vocational courses and also complete their non-vocational coursework there. The program has a total of 1,680 kids in it. 74 of them are York suburban students. This is a 23% increase from last year. So we have 23% more kids attending, more students attending York Tech for their full-time program. York Tech also has a part-time flex program where students attend the school part-time for vocational training. Of the 59 students in that program, 6 of them are from York Suburban, 3 juniors and 3 seniors, and that makes a 50% increase over the number of students we had in the flex program over last year. In budget news, Mrs. Chichuli is working with the administrative team to prepare next school year's budget. As part of that process, we've developed the budgetary goals derived from the district's comprehensive plan. Goal 1 is to address individual student pathways toward success. Goal 2 is a contemporary pedagogy and modern curriculum alignment and assessment. And the third goal, what would a budget be without trying to find the operational efficiencies we possibly can find? So those are the 3 goals that we're using to build this budget. They align well with the comprehensive plan, as it should. And lastly, attached to this is a student enrollment report for October. Now, it's important to note about October is October 1's numbers are the numbers that are used by Pennsylvania Department of Education for our official enrollment numbers for the year. So the October numbers are pretty important numbers. And then the report has been modified recently to account for a couple of things. First, we added the top and hybrid enrollments, K-12, on that report, so we can see where we are at any one time with that. And we also add comparable enrollment numbers relative to the last few years, so you can see where we are year to year for total enrollment. And that includes the superintendent's report for tonight. Any questions on any of those items?
Dr. Williams, this is Alan. If I look at some of these numbers for our hybrid, which is the larger chart, and add in some of the other numbers from TOPS, some of our classes have pretty hefty enrollments. Am I correct? I mean, they're not.
It's not significantly different over last year. Some are low.
Okay.
Some are lower, some are higher. But
I was just looking at some of the, particularly at the elementary level, which I'm always concerned about,
Right. Right.
some of those numbers look really big. I mean, if they were all to decide to come back, we have no place to put them in a hybrid situation.
well, it'd be challenging. Yeah.
And the way we're doing it now, having the AB type thing. Okay, thank you.
Right. You bet. Okay. And item C, first and second read in August and September of the board policies 103, 104, and 249. Tonight is the final read of those policies, and we're looking for approval on those policy changes. These are before the board for the last few months.
So moved.
Second.
John, you're muted.
Letting me on. Okay, there we go. Okay. So I think we can do these all as one unless there's concern of anybody wanting to hear one of these separate. So are there questions and comments for any? Then this can be a unanimous roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you. And item D, tonight we have Dr. Manos and Ms. Bedell with us tonight. I think we'll start with Dr. Manos.
Thanks, Dr. Williams. Good evening, board. I am going to share my screen as I pre-recorded this evening. And to Mrs. Say and Mrs. Fryrick, I found your written word conversation right prior to the board meeting very relevant to how I chose to share this evening, because I chose to write a piece of poetry. So I do hope you all enjoy this bit of poetry from one of your school administrators. School district. My name is Dr. Todd Monis, principal of Valley View Elementary, and I'm taking an opportunity tonight to share some of the innovative and creative things happening at Valley View Elementary School. I have decided to do this through poetry, so please enjoy as I share things about Valley View through poetry. We create, we innovate. Although COVID is getting old, it doesn't stop us from being bold. When others say you can't do what you've done in the past, we say not so fast. You can't do AM announcements. The students at home won't hear it. Well, listen to these online announcements with school spirit.
Good morning, Valley View. It is a marvelous Monday, and we are glad you're here. At this time, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now say that Valley View Elementary pledge with me. I will be respectful, I will be responsible, I will be a worker, I will be a friend. Be the best you can be at PVE. Before you get to work, let's review our health rules. It's always wise to sanitize, keep calm and mask on. Stay in your own space and don't touch your face. We stay 6 feet apart to show we have a heart. Wash your hands while you sing a song. It should take about 20 seconds long. Have a safe and healthy day, VVE.
What about playing with toys? There's no way without spreading germs. Ah, but you didn't think about personal learning space where students play on their terms. If PE is in the classroom, how will kids be active? Our students believe playing outside is more attractive. What about traditions like the first grade quilt? We displayed it proudly and recognized it in our weekly newsletter without guilt. Surely VVE can't figure out how to have group activities. Well, as a matter of fact, our students coordinate student-led festivities. We create, we innovate, and we are going to kick this COVID bug. And when we do, VVE will welcome back the much missed hug. Thank you for listening to some of the creativity and innovation. All right. I hope you enjoyed just that brief little mention of all the efforts of Valley View staff and beyond as we're working through this COVID time. And Mrs. Fryer, Mrs. Say, I hope I did the written word justice.
Bravo.
Yes. Yes, excellent.
Thanks. Any questions? All right, that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Manos. Ms. Bedell.
I'm not quite sure how to follow that. I did not write spoken word poetry this evening, but I will be sharing my screen. Okay, so I'm excited to share with you some of the ways that York Suburban Middle School has been making the 2021 school year bold. Okay, I cannot, there we go. We were not able to have our traditional staff photo this year. So we decided that we were just going to do things a little bit differently this year. To jump back a slide here, I somehow skipped over that. School's looking a little bit different this year, but different isn't necessarily bad. And I think we've actually found some ways to embrace the good in the situation that we've been handed. So you can see here in these pictures, we've got students socially distancing, we've got students wearing masks, and all of that is helping us to stay safe. And it's also giving us some opportunities to do some things that are different and bold. Here you can see our staff photo for this year. Dr. Sneddon put together our Bitmoji staff photo. Everybody on staff and the students had a great time trying to figure out who was who. So we've got that hanging up in our lobby for students to take a look at, and that was a lot of fun. I think my favorite is Mr. Show down here. That's the perfect representation of Mr. Showmaker. One of our initiatives this year is to make everybody feel like somebody at York Suburban Middle School. Each week, teachers nominate students to become one of our several students of the week. These students are chosen for a variety of reasons, whether they're showing improvement in a particular class, whether they're showing leadership in class, or taking initiative, or just all around doing a great job. We do hang these up on our bulletin board in the hallway to honor their accomplishments, and we send the photo home so that the people who are in charge of them at home know what a great job they're doing. In addition, to make everybody feel like somebody, we also honor a staff member each week. We have a prime parking spot right out front to congratulate the person. They get to park in that prime parking spot for the week. Some of our middle school happenings, as much as things look different this year, there are still opportunities for students to participate in athletics and after extracurriculars. Auditions for Annie Jr. just wrapped up on Friday, as did the field hockey season and our football season. Most important though, I do want to focus a little bit on some of the educational pieces that are happening. On the left, you can see one of our students who is sharing an activism art project that she created in art class. This is a project where students explore current events through their artwork, and they create a piece of art in order to take a stand on something that's happening in our society. So some of the artwork that they created had to do with LGBTQ rights, as this one does, with protecting our small businesses as we are going through COVID. And in addition, one of the other projects had to do with protecting our oceans and keeping them clean and free of pollution. On the right-hand side there, you can see some students went outside last week. They were working on projects related to studying the properties of air. Okay, let me see if we can get this one to load. Okay, here you can see some of our 6th grade students in their ELA classes. These teachers came up with a really great, bold idea to have students use lockers to explore characters that they were studying in a story that they were reading. So they decorated the locker to represent something about the character, and then they actually wrote their text-dependent analysis on the inside of the locker door. So this was a really great activity to get students engaged with their learning. On the right-hand side, we have some students who are doodling for part of a brain break in their Roots and Wings class, where they were learning to be mindful and to make sure that they're exercising self-care. This slide provides you with a snippet of some of the reflections of our 8th grade students in their social studies classes. They were talking about the Declaration of Independence and reflecting on whether or not the Declaration of Independence is a document that is being upheld today. So again, this is a great example of how our students are exploring current events through our curriculum. We can see that some of the issues that students are thinking about today tie back to what they're studying in the Declaration of Independence from 1776. This was a great event that just happened last week. Mrs. Reinert's students requested that they could go to the fax room and work on a project there related to ratios. So they actually went to the fax room and we're studying the idea of ratios and why you can't just add 1 to each number in a ratio and have it work out. So they used recipes as a real life example of how that can be problematic. You can see in the picture on the right, the 2 different kinds of cookies they made when they altered the ratios. But the biggest hit, I think, was the brownies, where they ended up with brownies that were so slick with oil that they didn't even bake in the oven. So that was a really great real-life experience and the importance of following ratios. And I don't have a picture of this today, though it is on the district's Facebook page. But Mr. Knoll, Mr. Thomas, and Mr. Moore built and manage a greenhouse. And that was actually a project spearheaded by Mrs. Poster through a grant a few years ago. But they're using that greenhouse to grow vegetables using hydroponics. And all of the vegetables that they grow, each harvest is going to be distributed to food insecure students who live in the district. Lastly, for our facility dog update, there are not any live trainings happening right now, so that we're hoping that as the new year approaches, we will be closer to finding a match. So these are some of the bold things that are happening at York Suburban Middle School. So thank you for sharing. If you have any questions, I'll gladly answer.
Any questions? Guess not. No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay. Ms. Chichuli.
Good evening. I have one item for board consideration, and that is the approval of additional bus and van drivers for the 2021 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? This can be a unanimous roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bowen.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm speaking for Ms. Bowen.
Ms. Bowen, your voice has changed.
I know, it's amazing what a few months of COVID has done. It's
Nice haircut too.
I was going to say his hairstyle is changed.
Miss Bowen and the girls field hockey team have once again fallen to this rescheduling matchup that has occurred through most of our fall athletics. So they ended up with a game this evening as well. So she sends her regrets. And for this evening's report, she shared that there wasn't a report to share as things are progressing as normal, and looking forward to being in person. Hopefully they'll be making the playoffs and moving along quite well, but hopes to make the November with greater updates in our high school as well as the postseason play for some of our athletic teams. So that is the report for Carly this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, please bring Carly back. Bring Carly back very soon.
I would agree. I think we're all wishing her return.
Yes.
Okay, we got a link here to the committee meeting schedule, and Mr. Scalette, Academic Standards and Curriculum.
Yes, thank you. The Academic Standards and Curriculum Committee met on October 7th at 4 p.m. Dr. Krauser introduced a report about the ways that the district serves our diverse students educationally, especially in light of the protests and the events of the last months. There was a presentation of the social studies curriculum, the social sciences curriculum, grades 8 through 12. And there was also some presentations on the English language arts curriculum with emphasis on how ELA curriculum offers discussions and activities to reinforce the concepts of empathy, coming of age pieces, American Dream, an analysis of that concept and what it means, as well as at the elementary school level, programs such as the Books as Windows and Mirrors initiative, which introduces more diverse books into the classrooms so that all students are represented in the literature that they read. All the curriculum materials at York Suburban are vetted by a committee of teachers, and parents can see the approved curriculum on the website, on student syllabi, and at back to school nights. There was also a presentation on updates and modes of learning. Among the highlights of that discussion, currently there are no York Suburban Honors Course offerings in the top program, but the administration hopes that those courses will be developed in the future. The board members who were present expressed continuing interest in ways that the district can measure the quality of education in these new modalities, the hybrid and the top program. There was also some discussion about how the transition might work in changing from one modality to the other and how it's possible for that to go smoothly. And there was also opportunities to have question and answer about how the district is doing with respect to the hybrid and top programs. And that question and answer will continue into our next meeting as well. Dr. Ketterman provided a report that Yorkshire Elementary and East York have been considered targeted Title I schools, and that the district is focusing on two priorities: educating families regarding assessments and foundational reading skills, and the professional development of teachers. There was no chair report. We adjourned at around 5:15. The next meeting is scheduled for November 18th at 4 p.m. That concludes my report, and if there are any questions. Okay,
Hearing none, thank you very much. Personnel Committee, Mr. Robinson.
You're muted, Rich. You're muted.
Some might think that's better. No, all of a sudden. Let me rephrase that. You have before you the personnel report, which includes employment and volunteer coach. Would any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of the below mentioned items.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And to follow up on Rich, are there any questions or comments? If not, this can be a unanimous roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
And before concluding my report, as Mr. Posnell mentioned earlier this evening, the Personnel Committee will be scheduling a public meeting in November and schedule it with alacrity. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Toman, Policy Review Committee.
Good evening. The following policies were discussed at the September 16th committee meeting, recommended out of committee for first read at the October 5th Planning Committee meeting, second read at this meeting, and followed by eventual adoption in November. So we have 9 policies. If there are any comments, have at it.
I think that's none.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Robinson, back to you. We couldn't stay away. Legislative update.
The legislative update report. Advocacy Day was held on the 8th of the month, and there were 2 meetings scheduled with Representative Kristen Phillips Hill and Representative Hill Evans. Both meetings centered primarily on the need for cyber charter reform. Sadly, Representative Phillips Hill was not present for most of this session as she was called away to a meeting involving law enforcement officials, but her chief of staff took down copious notes, I'm sure. In addition, Representative Hill Evans expressed her support, her strong support, I might add, for efforts in the direction of cyber charter reform, and was open to an invitation to visit York Suburban at the convenience of the administration and faculty, with the caveat that she is caring for her mother, who is 94. So if this kind of visit can be arranged, extra precautions will have to be taken to ensure maximum safety. In addition, the Spring-It's-Berry Planning Commission met last Thursday and discussed the 5,000 square foot addition at the shopping mall on the top of the hill, Camp Betty Washington Road and Mount Rose Avenue. It was a spine-tingling meeting, to be sure. I'm sure you're all sorry you missed it. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Ms. Frerick.
Yeah, one little thing under committee reports. I would like to remind everybody that the Communications Committee will be meeting this Wednesday at 3 o'clock and not 5 o'clock. For all those who might be interested, it is a virtual meeting. And that will be followed by Rich and his ever-present Personnel Committee. They'll be happy for you for the Lincoln Intermediate Unit. The Dawn's Early Light gives you a little bit of insight into what's going on out there. And just one point, they have asked the Chester County IU, which is the CCIU, which is the group that helped us with our superintendent search, to do a communications audit for the IU 12. So it was good to see that CCIU was back in our neck of the woods. As far as the Joint Operating Committee, I have no report at this point. And then with your permission, I'll go right into the York Adams Academy report.
Go for it.
We started all students back in person last Tuesday on the 13th. And between the 3 sessions, we had about an 85 or 86% attendance, which we felt very, very good about, as well as a number of our students out in the Adams County site continued at their doing remote learning on their own until we get some things organized out there. So we were very, very pleased with that. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. York County School of Technology. Ms. Schrader.
Yes, just for those who need to be aware, presentations for the School of Technology related to 8th grade visitations, recruitment for the next school year, the open house and things like that, it has been decided will all be done virtually. So anybody who's thinking about their 9th grade year from York Suburban at the School of Technology needs to be cognizant of that. Regarding the new gym construction, I wanted to share that roofing has been completed. So the new building is undercover, watertight. Masonry work is being completed also before the winter season. The HVAC system installation is going on, I think, as we speak. And completion for the new gymnasium is expected sometime in January. Unless there are questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you. All right, we have a link here to our athletic activities, and we also have a link to a calendar for upcoming events. And I would like to take a minute to thank everybody who is watching us either streaming or on this site. Thank you for being here with us tonight. You have a link to the board meeting schedule, and then we'll have one more opportunity for public comment if there are any additional.
Public comments at this time.
No more comments. Okay. In that case, without anything else, I think we can be adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.